You know, it really is always so great to talk to you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, how many people can you talk to about this stuff?
You don't even know.
Do you guys think Gwen might die in Beyond the Spider-Verse instead of Miles' dad? I don't think it's likely because in the movie, we saw that canonical events can be changed without messing up the whole multiverse. Like when Gwen's dad didn't die, even though it's a common story thing for a police captain to die. This makes us wonder if Miguel was wrong about how canon events usually go. But we still don't know if Miguel or Miles is right. Maybe the next movie will explain more about how canon events work. But Gwen's death is also a common story thing, especially when she falls for Spider-Man. Even though this Gwen is also a spider person, we're not sure if the usual rules apply to her. She's aware of her canon event and she's in love with Miles, but she's worried that something bad might happen because of other versions of herself in different universes. Some people say that since this is Miles' story and not Peter's, Gwen will be okay. And I agree. Maybe this time, Gwen will get a happy ending with Spider-Man. As I mentioned, it's highly unlikely that Gwen will die because she's such an important character in the movies. There are some scenes in Across the Spider-Verse where Gwen seems to be falling, and Miles is trying to catch her, which reminds us of what happened with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man trying to save his Gwen. These are just references, but it's interesting because the directors seem to be aware of it. I've noticed that some people want Gwen to die in the next movie. They didn't like her actions in Across the Spider-Verse, and they've misunderstood her character. Gwen is actually a very complex character. She's not perfect, but in movies, songs, and other forms of media, people will always have different opinions and perspectives. So, it's normal for everyone to have their own take. But Gwen's character has upset a lot of people to the point where they want her to die in the next movie. However, I don't think that's going to happen. This time, she will hopefully get a happy ending with Miles. We can only hope for the best. Spider-Gwen can handle herself pretty well, but at the end of the day, she's still Gwen Stacy, whether she has superpowers or not. I really don't want to see Miles go through the same heartbreak that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man went through when he lost his Gwen. It would be interesting to see an interaction between Miles and Andrew's Spider-Man. I think they'd get along great. Everything seems to be pointing in the direction that Gwen will be okay this time, breaking free from her usual fate. Another thing to consider about Gwen's story arc in Across the Spider-Verse is that this is just the beginning. Many people dislike her character, but this is only the first part of the movie. Usually, when we watch a movie, there's a character who annoys us at first or doesn't quite click with us, but by the end of the movie, our perspective changes because we've seen the full story. It's a cliffhanger. It's one part of the whole movie. I think this dislike for Gwen will only be resolved when Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out. Until then, you'll probably hear someone saying that she's terrible and things like that. It's not even debatable that she is in love with Miles. It's just a fact, and the movie clearly shows that. The real question now is whether she and Miles will have a happy ending without any tragedy on Gwen's part, or if it will be a satisfying conclusion for both of them. But of course, Gwen will need to first prove herself to Miles and show that she's on his side. Who knows, maybe by the end of the movie, they'll share a kiss or something and finally become a couple. I've heard people say they've been rooting for them to get together since the first movie came out in 2018. That's one of the longest build-up relationships I've ever seen, so it would make sense for them to finally get together after all this time. Anyway, it could go either way, a good or happy ending. But seriously, Miles deserves to be happy after everything he's been through in Across the Spider-Verse. At least one Spider-Man should have a happy ending and not end up alone or heartbroken. I'm confident that Gwen's redemption arc will be awesome,